Doctor Who, The Tale of Lily Newman, written and read by Isaac Travers. I'm here to tell you a story of a young woman who travelled with me for a time. It was just before and after an encounter with the toy maker. Although I've never been sure where it takes place, it's better if I tell you from what I can remember. This person's name was Lily Newman. She was a university student who had happened to be on a holiday trip with her cousin and a few of her friends. What they didn't realise was that the house they were staying in had a weeping angel who'd been in there for years. I happened to locate the angel's presence and did some investigating myself. And that was when I met Lily. Though, I think by now you already know about that story. Unfortunately, in the end, Lily's cousin Chris gave his life to save her. But it came at a cost, as he was sent back in time and lived his life throughout the whole of the 1910s, eventually coming to a horrible demise when fighting in the First World War. Lily was heartbroken from what had happened, and I too was guilty for letting someone so close to her vanish away forever. After losing both Craig and Skylar, I couldn't risk another person again. So I left. I turned back and left Lily behind, at the now abandoned house in Winfield. But then, a few seconds later, from her perspective, the TARDIS reappeared in the exact same position it had departed from. What happened between that time, you may ask? Well, you'll have to find out someday. Now, where were we? Yes. I walked out from the TARDIS doors and apologized to Lily for just bailing out on her like that. I felt ashamed doing it because I wasn't in the right state of mind, especially since I had lost two of my previous companions and I didn't want to make the same mistakes again. Lily somehow understood how I felt. What I didn't know about her was that her parents were very distant from each other and had been ever since she was born. She came from a difficult childhood, especially when her parents divorced. Lily was living with Chris and her auntie Juliet. Now that Chris was gone, she needed someone to guide her. A father figure in a way. Someone that had been absent from her life. I agreed to help her and invited her to travel in the TARDIS. Funny enough, she mentioned once we got inside the TARDIS and when I was setting the destination to hope that nothing bad would happen. I did warn her that there would be some dangers, but I would keep my promise no matter what happened. Wherever we landed, wherever we were going to go, I would keep her safe from the many dangers of the universe. And with that, Lily had officially joined the TARDIS. Our travels together were rather strange, but were still exciting. In fact, our first adventure was surprisingly enough having the TARDIS being eaten by a massive space serpent. It all happened once we entered space and the TARDIS stopped moving. Both Lily and I went outside to find that we were inside the stomach. It was filled with all sorts of strange things, from scraps of metal and even skeletons of alien creatures. Some of them were humans in spacesuits. The stomach itself felt horrible, as its saliva smelt of rotting pineapple juice that was left moldy for weeks. The stench alone felt unbreathable. Even our clothes got covered in muck and snot. One thing for certain was we had to get into the TARDIS out of the situation without having to be going out from the bottom. Luckily, Lily was able to spot something glimmering beneath a heap of half-disintegrated spaceship panels. A strange humming orb clutched the skeletal hand of what looked like a long-dead salvage engineer. Lily pulled it out free with a grimace, wiping some of the goo off on her already ruined pink cardigan. Doctor, she said, holding it out. Does this look like it could be something useful to you? I took it with wide eyes and an even wider grin. Oh, Lily, you are brilliant. It's not just a core, it's the core. That ship must have been carrying enough unstable energy to rupture subspace in total. She raised a brow. Meaning? Meaning, I said, already darting toward a half-submerged TARDIS. We could tickle this serpent's guts from the inside, giving it a little bit of indigestion. With a bit of tinkering using my sonic screwdriver, and some improvised wiring using a chewed-up power cable, I rigged the destabilizer to emit a localized pulse, not strong enough to blow a hole in space-time, but just enough to make the serpent's innards think like it swallowed something dangerously explosive. I wedged the orb between two pulsating stomach folds, and then we ran. Lily was already at the TARDIS doors, waving frantically. "Hurry, Doctor!" I drove through the TARDIS doors just as the stomachs convulsed violently. The TARDIS shook as if we were inside a washing machine on full spin. Alarms blared, the console started to spark. And then, we were spat out into space. The TARDIS tumbled through the debris for a moment, before I rightened her up with a few button slams and slapped the console. Lily was doubled over, laughing through her disgust. I think I've just been puked out," she gasped. "Oh, that was disgusting." Yes," I agreed, wiping gunk off my face. "And brilliant. Absolutely revolting, but utterly magnificent." From then on, we went off to see more wonders of the universe. We found ourselves in 18th century Japan, where we encountered robots disguised as samurai warriors, invading the peaceful village near Osaka. I almost lost my head in that scenario. There was even an encounter with the dreaded Pescatons from the lost planet of Pesca, where they were attacking an oil rig off the coast of Caravanova. We met Oscar Wilde, Sacagawea, met up with the Vord, and had a party with Casanova. And we even went to see a classic opera at the Paris Opera Garnier. Luckily for us, there wasn't an opera ghost haunting the place this time round. Lily by this time had experienced quite a lot on our adventures together. Whenever we weren't traveling, we played board games like Battleship or random puzzles that I had not yet completed in years. For the longest time, in which it had not happened for me in a very long time, I was starting to become more open with my companions. I started to show a brighter side to my nature. After many years of hiding my true feelings to those I had in company with, and being more cunning to my enemies in ways that would lead them to death and chaos, I chose to give people a chance. Even if some places were cruel, Lily would assure me that the universe is not all black and white, but has beauty. You may not see it at first glance, but the time we arrived back on Earth, things would change for Lily for the better. The TARDIS needed some refueling back on Earth. I could have gone to Cardiff Bay, but we ended up in Canberra, just outside the shopping centre that held a massive cube, which was the designated spot where time-space rift energy would be able to recharge the TARDIS. Most people would say Canberra is a bit of a dull place. I could get that feeling too, though at least there were some nice spots to see. Instead of Lily and I trying to hunt down the alien together, this time I gave her the chance to do some fun and have her do some of the shopping for a bit whilst I went out. I offered Lily a $17 million voucher card, which came from one of my trips from the Franco Bazaar, which was of unlimited use and could be used over and over again. After promising me that she would be careful not to spend too much of it in one day, Lily was off on her little shopping trip. Now, for this part, I'm going to have to try and remember from what I was told from Lily. So, here's how the next part of the story goes, and I hope I don't fabricate it too much. When Lily was visiting one of the record shops in the centre, she was having trouble choosing from the many vinyls they had. Whenever I was around, I would usually put on the Smiths, as I loved the heartbreaking sadness and the occasional humour that Morrissey and Johnny Marr put into each of their songs. Or even the underrated bands like Joy Division, The Chameleons and The Sound. Lily was more of a contemporary listener to the more modern music, mainly of songs of Marina, as she resonated with the lyrics that she wrote, of not being afraid of being yourself and not needing to play the game for money or fame. It wasn't until Lily spotted a young man in a green Levi's jacket, with a black hoodie embodied with the cover of Strange Times by the Chameleons, that she felt a strange sense of familiarity. Not that she knew him, but shared a quiet obsession with music that clung to people's like a scent. He was flipping through the secondhand section with laser focus, a flick of each vinyl sleeve punctuated by soft hums of approval or disappointment. "Looking for something more specific?" Lily asked, casually sliding into the same aisle. Yeah," he replied, not looking up. Early Sad Lovers and Giant stuff, or maybe Script of the Bridge if I'm stupidly lucky." Lily grinned. "So you're into post-punk too?" That made him glance over, curiosity flashing behind his dark eyes. Who isn't? It's like the perfect mix of angst and atmosphere. "Couldn't agree more," Lily said, pulling out an old From the Lion's Mouth reissue with a satisfied nod. "I'm more of a dream pop person though, with a dash of noise." They chatted for a few minutes of band recommendations at local venues and unbearable price of original pressings. He introduced himself as Sebastian, a local music student, friendly, just nerdy enough and refreshingly unaware that Lily was a time traveler who had been away from her world for quite some time. She ended up grabbing 2 records, Ocean Rain by Echo and the Bunnymen and the original Heaven Up There. At the counter, Lily pulled out the shimmering $17 million voucher card which I had gifted her for use, complete with a tiny futuristic etchings on the counters. The clerk scanned it and, once paused, scanned it again, then shrugged as the till accepted the transaction without protest. Sebastian looked vaguely impressed. "Some kind of Ultraman Premium membership?" "Yeah, you could say that," Lily replied with a smirk, slipping the records into her tote bag. "Let's just say I have a very generous friend." As they stepped out into the shop, the clouds started to darken the sky. Something was happening, and it didn't seem good. Meanwhile, on the other hand, I happened to find a secret base hidden beneath the plaza, cleverly cloaked behind a large billboard, and had unfortunately sticky maintenance hatch. Not my most elegant entrance, mind you. One moment I was scanning for trace energy signals, and the next I was dragged in by some cold, squelchy tentacles. Little did I realize I was in the midst of the Sephiroth. There were creatures composed entirely of exposed, pulsing brain matter, wrapped in translucid squid-like tentacles, dripping slime like they'd just crawl out from a primeval stew. They smelt faintly of seawater and static electricity, and their touch left a reduce that clung onto my coat with alarming condiment. One of them, clearly their coordinator or leader, was latched into the pulsating control panel, its tendrils flicking over wet, jelly-like keys as it monitored a dozen lives fed across civilizations, fleeing in panic. Above them all, on one of the central monitors, I saw my TARDIS. It stood quiet and proud at the center of the plaza, completely unaware it was sitting on top of a dimensional weak spot. Then I realized their plan. They weren't invading by ship. They didn't need one. The rift beneath the TARDIS was a natural interdimensional fault line which was completely unstable. If they forced it open, even slightly, their kind would pour out like water through cracked glass. Sewer by sewer, tunnel by tunnel, a whole planet taken not by war, but by seepage. I knew this was the perfect time for distraction. I grabbed my sonic screwdriver and wedged it behind the central control console. Just beneath the mucus-covered neutral port, the Sephiroth thrashed violently, flinging themselves back into the sewage ducts they'd crawl from. Some dissolved into vapor as they link into the rift destabilized. The others simply fled, screeching through the cracks in the walls. But one thing was certain. They were retreating. I snatched my sonic screwdriver and bolted through the maintenance corridor, climbing back into the surface just as smoke and mild hysteria filled the air. Near the edge of the plaza, just beside a hot dog stand that had somehow survived the chaos, I spotted Lily with a tote full of records and a very confused bloke called Sebastian. "You two alright?" I asked, brushing off a stray tentacle straightened from my shoulder. Lily blinked. "You smell like dead calamari and petrol." That's definitely something. Thank you for asking that." Sebastian pointed at the open manhole nearby. "What the hell were those things?" "Cephacrine. Think brains on legs, or tentacles, but they're gone for now," I said, straightening my coat. "I'm certain that Captain Matthews and his folks at units will easily clear up this mess, probably building like a little parking lot over the hole while they're at it." Lily frowned slightly. "And the rift?" "Sealed. For now. But that center may need a new Wi-Fi router." The TARDIS had finally warmed up. Its temporal stabilizers had stopped coughing, for the old girl was humming, in that type of way that she does when she's a little tired, but still excited for one more leap across the stars. I stood just beside the doors with my coat draped over my arms. Before I could go in, I watched Lily and Sebastian from a short distance. They stood together in the quiet aftermath of all the madness, laughing softly over something I couldn't quite hear. Lily had that look on her eyes, that subtle searching expression, the one that spoke of wanting more, not in the galactic sense, but more in the very human sense. A real life with someone to share music with, someone to cook bad pasta with, and someone to hold on to when things felt too loud. She looked at Sebastian in a way people don't realize they're looking at someone until it's too late to stop. And I saw it. So I walked over, my hands in pockets, trying not to interrupt too harshly. "You know, Lily," I began gently, "I was thinking of making a quick trip, nothing too wild, maybe a week or so into the Adamidian spiral, a bit staggering, a bit of peace and quiet." She turned toward me, trying to put on that brave smile. "Right now?" I nodded. "But you don't have to come. I mean, I want you to, of course I do, but maybe, just maybe, you could stay here, just for now, just to get to know him better." I glanced at Sebastian, who awkwardly scratched the back of his head, suddenly unsure where to look. Lily blinked. "You mean, really?" "Really," I said. "Time's funny like that. A week could be like months for me. Years even. Who's counting, honestly?" I shrugged, trying not to sound like I was swallowing my own emotion. So, Lily stayed, and I left. A few weeks passed by. Well, one day and a bit for me, and just as I was trying to clean up an area in the library that had been covered in dust for hundreds of years, the phone rang. I went over to the phone and picked it up to hear who it was. It was Lily. "Doctor?" she said through the crackly line of the earthbound interference. Hi, I know you're probably somewhere dangerous again, but I just wanted to let you know I moved in with Sebastian. We're dating. We have been for a few months now." There was a nervous edge to her voice, like she thought I might be hurt. But I wasn't. Not even a little. "Oh, well then," I said with a wide grin. "Well, I hope he knows how lucky he is. I always suspected him to be more than just a music lover with good-looking cheekbones." She laughed, that familiar, warm laugh. "You'll see us again, right? Oh, Lily, you could never get rid of me if you ever tried." And so 1 year passed for her, yet it was just a day for me. I landed outside the garden of a small cottage tucked beneath the rolling hills and quiet lanes. A new home, new roots, the grass smelt fresh, and a porch that wind chimes made of old vinyl records. Now that is very Lily. I knocked on the door, and I was greeted by the two of them. She had a glow about her, not from alien energy this time, but something far gentler, more so earthly honesty. We sat in the kitchen, and I had a proper cup of tea with 2 sugars, a pinch of milk, just as I would usually like it. And then Lily told me they were engaged. and I'll have to admit my heart swelled at that. Not with sadness, but with pride. Like watching a star go supernova, knowing it's not the end, just a new beginning. Oh, I congratulated her, truly saying that, I can tell you that you and Sebastian are absolutely brilliant together. I could see her wondering if this was a goodbye, if that was the case, but I shook my head about it. Tell you what, I said to her, tapping my spoon against the teacup. How about this? Every few years I pop around, a quick hello, maybe the odd adventure, nothing too death-defying, just a little fun here and there. Lily's eyes lit up. You really do that? I wouldn't miss it for the universe, I said, finishing my tea. And I mean that literally. As I stood to leave, the wind stirred the chimes and the sky overhead turned that beautiful blue sky. They waved as I stepped back into the TARDIS, and I gave one quick goodbye before the TARDIS doors closed. As the years went on, life settled into something beautifully ordinary for Lily and Sebastian. They were married in a small ceremony on the sunlit hill. Lily wore a beautiful pale green dress, and Sebastian could barely say his vows without choking up on his own nerves. I was there, just in the background, smiling like a fool and keeping the TARDIS tucked behind the thickening of the trees. And then came Lauren and then Daniel, two bright sparks in a world that desperately needed them. Lauren was thoughtful, always asking questions far too big for her age. Daniel was always more so curious in a different way, restless and bold, the kind of child you'd try to open a locked cupboard just because it was locked. I visited as often as I could, not too frequently. My mind didn't want to raise any eyebrows. I appeared every few years with strange gifts from strange places, from a snow globe that contained actual swirling snow from Mars's southern pole, a wind-up frog from the 43rd century that whistled some sort of jazz, and a book that read itself out loud in different voices, depending on your mood. But to them, I wasn't the doctor. I was just Uncle John Smith, the same man in the same coat and fedora, never older and never younger. A friend of Mum's from the old days. I don't think they'd ever really questioned it. Children rarely do. They just feel when someone's safe. Those visits over time became shorter. The kids grew up. They had lives, school, friends, and adventures on their own. I didn't mind that. That's how it should be. I still wrote them letters from nowhere in particular, and postmarked them in places. The post office couldn't even find it on a map. Just little notes to check in. Just to say that I was still out there. Then, one day, much later, I got a call. It was Lauren. She was all grown up now, a voice filled with strength and the kind of kindness that comes from her mother. She told me gently that Lily had moved into a nursing home. Said it like it was something she'd rehearsed. She said that her mother's mind wandered often more than not these days. That morning, Lauren asked me if the blue box was parked outside. I sat very still in the console room, her voice echoing in the quiet hum of the TARDIS. I thought I wanted you to know, Lauren said. And I did. I thanked her, and I promised to Lauren that I'd be on my way. So I set the coordinates, took one last look at a photograph stuck onto the console of Lily, Sebastian, Lauren, and Daniel, all sitting there on that picnic rug beneath the big elm tree. And I was on my way. The TARDIS had landed in a rather luscious garden. I was uncertain which room Lily would have been in, but somehow she could spot me from the window. Lily sat there in her room, her gaze fixed on the garden outside, where sunlight filtered through trembling leaves. Her hair had turned silver, her frame frailer. But when she turned and saw me, truly saw me. Her eyes lit up with the unmistakable spark of recognition. I was able to walk inside the nursing home. I was certain that she was in room 86. And once I walked inside, Lily was so glad to see me. "You haven't changed," she whispered, a smile tugging on her lips. "Not a day." I knelt down beside her, taking her hand gently in mine. "But you have. Lauren told me all about everything, but I'm glad that you're living your best life here." We talked quietly for a while. Lily told me fragments of her life, of love, and of laughter, of heartbreak and joy. Her memory flickered like candlelight, but when it came to me, it was clear and bright. For an hour, time seemed to have paused, as if the universe itself held its breath for us. I knew I couldn't be around for too long, but I was aware that the next time I would meet her, she'd be long gone by then. When it was time for me to go, I stood slowly, reluctant, and just before I went, I told her something rather important. "Thank you, Lily, for the stars we saw, for the days you made brighter, for everything." She squeezed my hand one last time. "And thank you for finding me." The TARDIS doors closed behind me with a soft thud. As I leaned against the console, I looked up at the time rotor with a distant expression. A small, wistful smile arose from my face. People change. Time changes. Life changes. Right in front of you. Sometimes without warning. And you never know when the last goodbye really is. So you hold on when you can. You laugh. You run. You love. And no matter what, I made sure it was worth it.